Three, two. Hi, everyone. The time is 6:06 on June 10th, 2024. It took us 10 months, but we're finally back. It's Ken Mide, your friends. We're here to discuss the second quarter of the superb 16 songs that we've deemed underrated and forgotten to time. We apologize for the delay. If we're being honest about what happened, it's just that Aelor got lost in the woods, but thankfully a colony of bears protected him from any strange men who may have been searching for him. And once they saw me, they're like, this person's kind of gay. You'll be safe with them. So here we are. It's Pride Month. It's a brand new freaking gear. Aelor, it's nice to see you again. How are you today?
It's great to be it's amazing to be back. It's amazing to be back within civilization, even though I'm still currently transitioning a bit out of having the woods in my in here mentally. But the really cool thing about being back and out is just being able to be reminded of all the interesting ways we just continue to interact with each other. We just continue to be around each other. One of the people who rescued me, he was just showing me all these videos of what humanity is still up to now. And this guy was passing by a Chick-fil-A, and he saw this incredibly beautiful woman step out, and she had a T-shirt that said "Blessed are the bisexuals." And there was just so much to really kind of take from it. I mean, the people at Chick-fil-A, and we know what Chick-fil-A is, being reminded of a community that they have an interesting relationship with. Just wearing a shirt like that at a Chick-fil-A, or just the really, really, really weird logistics of going to a Chick-fil-A during Pride Month. But that's just how people are. That's just how people are. It's no judgment.
You had me at transitioning, wink, wink, but then you lost me at the mention of that establishment. I have 3 words for you: deboning machine. That's probably a little in bad taste. My sincerest condolences to the families who have been, I guess, just fuck Chick-fil-A. Let's just keep it at that. Fuck Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Not to put anybody on blast in particular, but I love there's this one podcast that I love, and they've been doing more visual. Like they filmed the show.
Mm-hmm.
And in the shot, because it's the two of them at a table having a nice conversation for an hour or so, but they happen to have 2 cups on the table from that particular establishment. And I know that one of the hosts of the show is from the Liga Biga Tigga. And so I'm like, look at here, folks, especially Black folks from the queer community. Hi. If you're going to go there, I don't want to know that you're going there, because then I'm going to feel some type of way. It's like Kev on stage saying that he still goes to McDonald's. Unc, why are you telling me that information? Please don't tell me like you're stepping out in that particular way. And I know, like, I don't want to play a game of like holier than thou, but like in a time where we're getting very clear instructions on how to help the nations of the world being just like torn apart for the sake of imperialism and capitalism, it's not that difficult to stay away from the brands that we've come to know and love. Because, like, for instance, I hate to go on such a tangent before we get talking about the music, but like the BDS are like, hey, no more Pizza Hut, no more Domino's, no more Papa John's. And I'm gonna expose myself. I like Papa John's, but I'm like, if it's the least I can freaking do so that like a nation can be free from pain and suffering, I will do that. There are plenty of like localized pizza joints in my city that I can support in place of that. And so then like, there are many other things to do when you want to like help like the nations of the world fight for their freedom. And you can go to rescue.org to learn more. I didn't link it in the description like I usually do. I'll be sure to put it in the comments once this like stream is completed. I mean, you can go to my Twitter account, which is in the description, and I have a link to like Arab.com. You can click like a button, and like some money is going to go to an organization that's fundraising for the nations of the world. I'm not saying the term now. I'm not saying the name of the nation now. I'm gonna say it at the end of the stream because I somehow feel in the same way that like TikTok is like giving people a hard time for mentioning a specific nation that we're all in support of. Like it'll just like bury our shit, and like it's not like we have such a big reach anyway on this particular program. But you know what they say is like, oh, don't swear for the first 5 minutes, and like ads will like play over your shit. I don't even like have 1,000 subscribers, so I'm not really concerned about not swearing. I swear, it is what it is. But like, I feel that if I like really just step out and say like Palestine, like they'll be like, oh, gotta block this shit, and it's like, man, fuck you, Google. Like your time is coming. Hate to tell you, your time is coming. Like there will be a day when like YouTube won't be like the default like application for like music and like watching content online. And like when that day comes, I'll be very happy because you had an opportunity to be a great company, like an actually great company, but you seem to shit the bed every time you have the chance. And you hate to see it. But here we are now. It's like the fact of the matter is most of the people in the world can see your shit for free on YouTube. It is just like it's the done data.
Yeah.
But it won't be, and I can't wait for it to be. I can't wait to like have an opportunity to like do the shit all over again or move all of our shit someplace else where everyone else can't see it. But that's not reality right now. We're making the most of what we can at this moment. 6:13 on the clock, 4 songs on the docket. It's 1:45. We're focusing on songs that Aelor selected. Those songs are and are not limited to. I'm going to scroll right down on Spotify, another app that like I am embarrassed that I still use, but it's free, so I'm not going to complain. What? Okay, yeah. The Superb 16, Part 2 includes, but is not limited to, Cranes in the Sky by Solange, Every Step, Every Way by Mahid Jordan, Drawn by De La Soul, A Little Dragon, and Same Drugs by Chance the Rapper, IGH. I want to say once again, you'll find like the link in the doobly-doo for like the playlist that we created together. And I feel that the half that Aramide like selected for this list plays like a complete album. Like how like you would like wake up at 3 a.m. and see ads for remember this particular decade of music. Well, you can have it now for $9.99. Like that's how well Aelor like selected the songs for his half of the breakdown of the year. And I can't just like salute you from here with just like your careful and like curated ear for just like good independent like indie alternative hipster bullshit ass music. Like you really just have like a keen eye into the scene, and I'm so thankful to like have your input and expertise as we just like go down like take this trip down memory lane and things of that nature. Let's get right into the meat of things. Like I'm just gonna go down the line here. First up we have Solange with her selection from A Seat at the Table. If I can just, I'm gonna start because I have way less to say than I'm sure you do. Let's take a look at let's take a look at the year so far. Solange's sister put out an album that is likely to get crowned album of the year at when we have one of the Grammys take place next year. I won't be watching. The chairman of the Academy pissed me off with a particular segment he did during the broadcast earlier this year. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, meet me in the comments or on Twitter. I'll tell you all about it.
And keep in mind, I know the guy you're talking about. Like this guy, I used to see him at the Grammys every time. He was always giving terrible speeches. Like it was at a certain point, it was gonna come to by him, and I wasn't crying when it did, but go on.
I was fucking pissed. And I'll say why I'm pissed. Like, I love the Grammys. They're my favorite award show of all time. Say what you will about the process. Say what you will about the organization. It's the one day of the year where like the focus is fucking music. Straight up and down, it's about the music. And I know that like a lot of politics come into place, not just because of just like nations that are being genocided, but just like certain agendas take place on that broadcast. I would love for the whole fucking this event to be televised so that everyone can like get their 5 seconds of TV time to like change the trajectory of their careers and such. Like, why the fuck was Carol G's award like on the telecast? Like, I know she's big in other parts of the world, but like regular people don't know who, like average Joes don't know who Carol G is in the freaking first place. I'll put money on that shit. And I got beef with Shorty. Shout out my dog, Lido Pimienta. But like, when sorry, that's my cord hitting my mic. It's like, like with Annie Lennox, calling for a ceasefire and getting her mic cut off, only then to just do the same shit that the chairman did, but this up with like this both sides bullshit. It's like. And it's so funny. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with one of my favorite content creators. I'm not going to mispronounce her name. It'll be so embarrassing. I'll just link it in the description. It's talking about how there's a big like witch hunt over who is and who is not supporting Palestine and things of that nature. And like it's funny. Oddly enough, I do see both sides of that argument of like condemnation. Being rebuked, it's like, it's on one hand, it's like I can't fathom the amount of what's at stake for you. I guess if you were a Beyonce and to explicitly say, no, I won't be showing my film in Israel, I do stand in support of Palestine. Like, I don't know what's at stake for Miss Ma'am, and quite frankly, sure, it's none of my business. But I also know it could be really fucking simple. You know what I'm saying? It could be really easy, because if there's one thing I know about like the Bay Hive, about Beyonce stans, about her fans across like the African American community, they trust her and they love her. So if they really care about what, like, because like she makes more politically charged music these days, and like, so if she says something like, "Yo, I don't fuck with imperialism," like free Palestine, free the DROC, and anything of that sort, free Sudan, like insert imperialize the nation here, like the stands will come, and those that we lose, fuck them. You know what I mean? It's like, like you need to make peace with yourself, examine why that's like a step too far for you and things of that nature. All that to fucking say, like, if you like, say, if you're a person on this earth who's walked around for the last 30 years or so, and you never heard a Beyonce album, confusion. But odds are you have, or at least like know some of her bigger records, just in general, because she's everywhere. She's the biggest pop star in the world right now, point blank, period. Yeah. Since like biggest African American pop star since Michael Jackson. I'll take that to my fucking grave. But I feel that with like a seat at the table, I feel that like Solange is making the kind of shit that we study in college. It's like if I meet a stranger at a party and I'm like, "Oh, what's one of your favorite albums?" and they say a seat at the table, I'm more intrigued with what they have to say if they were to say, I don't know, like 4 by Beyonce, because true, like sure, that makes sense in general considering all the good shit that's on 4. But if you're like, oh, a seat at the table, and like your favorite song isn't like Cranes in the Sky, I'm like, huh. It's not often you meet people who would like immediately go to that as just like, it's like the point of the series. It's a very underrated piece of music, and like even with Apple including it in like their top 100 albums of all time, I still feel like it reads a bit it still reads a bit like it doesn't feel very genuine when they say shit like that. Because I've heard a seat at the table, I think, once, and I'll be the first to admit that to myself. But I know that every time I don't immediately reach for Cranes in the Sky. But when I listen to that song, I'm like, this is one of the most important fucking songs I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. Like, it's definitely like on the level of, if we send anything out to space, this song has to be like the single from on vinyl has to be in the care package, because it's just so beautiful and striking. It is black fine art when I hear this damn song. And while you're like telling the audience while you chose it, I'm going to pull up the lyrics because I have more to say later. But in a nutshell, like, if you don't mind, like, this is why I like you so much. If you could wax poetic about what Cranes in the Sky means to you and what it meant to you when you heard it for the first time.
You know, and I'm so glad you asked that question. And, you know, to take, you know, can Mide back even further on, I believe, if not our first, then maybe our second episode, because we shot our first two episodes on the same day.
We sure did.
If not the first video, then definitely the second video, either or. I had put another Solange song, "Losing You," her wonderful collaboration with Dev Hynes.
Yes.
And you know, and like with that one, we were very careful to kind of tiptoe about, you know, who her sister is, and, you know, all those comparisons that she's had to deal with. But one thing that I mentioned, and, you know, what you just said about how kind of underrated the album is, really kind of took something I said on, I believe, on all the years back into a new perspective. Because with Losing You, my perspective on Losing You was that, had Crane in the Sky never happened, Losing You would have been her big signature song. That would have been the one where, like, you know, it's like, hey, you know, and here's like this one number from a little sister to the queen bee, or something like that. So some wacky radio DJ would say, or something like that. But then Crane in the Sky comes, and I don't know if it was just because of time. I don't know if, you know, whatever goodwill hype from Lemonade, which, I'm sure, but not too much. But with that song, as soon as I heard it, as soon as I saw the video, I was like, yo, like, it's official. Like, folks are going to know who Solange is now, because,
in a tangible way.
Yeah, because it's a song that, like, like so many great songs about, you know, vulnerability and being very internally bruised, and the things you have to do to heal yourself, to even attempt to heal yourself. It calls attention to itself so right out of the gate. Like, it literally starts with that snare drum, with that like snare drum thing. Yeah, you know, produced, co-produced technically, because, you know, so, you know, the lady herself was indeed a co-producer on this album, co-producer, co-writer. And, you know, we gotta, you know, and I think it's very important to give Solange her credit on that aspect as well. But, you know, and that is obviously not to discount the work she obviously herself did on song. But on the credits, you see listed as her co-producer an incredibly legendary name in the world of R&B. Like, you know, if you're talking R&B from the past 40 years and you do not even like hum a tune that this man has done, what are you talking about? And I am, of course, talking about the amazing Raphael Sadiq, who like has, for the many years that I have listened to him, whether Tony, Solo, Lucy Pearl. Shout out to Lucy Pearl. He has always been able to outdo himself in terms of songwriting and producing. He is probably one of the few songwriters I can ever like, not even like overpraise or blowing smoke. I can sincerely say that if you ever ask me what is your favorite Raphael Sadiq song, and you allow me to include like everything, once again, Tony, Solo, Lucy Pearl, stuff he's collabed on, he has so consistently upped his own game that he's one of the few guys who I can say, like, my favorite thing he's done will probably be the next thing he does,
Wow.
and and having those two minds, because as it should be clear, since I put a Solange song on our first episode, I thought like Solange was Solange was so much to me, and just seeing those two minds really kind of much like how Solange was able to really capture Dev Hynes' strengths and really helped elevate them on their collaboration. This is just truly one of the best things that either parties had ever made at that time. And I think, and obviously it's going to be seen as the top 5 for Solange, but you absolutely have to put top 5 in terms of stuff that like Raphael has done. And it's that organic quality that has always been in some of his best works. The fact that he is a man who to the bone studies the soul greats, and tries to imbue whatever he can into whatever record he makes, which is what makes me so thankful that a song that very much is kind of imbued to those old classic soul records he had grown up with, was able to reach so high in that year and get so much attention. And keep in mind, with literally talk about a song that would win a Grammy the following year. She was on the, as much as I love this show, I know I can't use this show as much as a quality barometer as much as I used to, but she was on an episode of SNL, performing the song along with Don't Touch My Hair. And
another banger.
And this was an album when, as soon as it came out, I was like, I was in my college classes telling my professor, telling the people like, hey, you want to check out good albums right now. Solange just released this album called A Seat at the Table. I think you should give it a listen, And yet that kind of like, I think of this, in my opinion, it's like, and maybe because I really do kind of have that old mindset on my taste, where it's like, once again, I kind of assume that, well, clearly everyone is still playing this song right now. This is the trailblazing music of the decade. On an album that itself, that, once again, I don't want to compare it too much to that other album by another Knowles that
came out that same year.
Yeah, that came out that same year. But it is interesting how both albums, obviously for different reasons, very much wrestle with the emotions that come from having to recover from personal betrayal. And you know, that kind of dichotomy between, how you see yourself in a relationship, and also just how you see yourself in the greater grips of society, that
If I
I
may,
would argue, yeah,
I'm sorry, you'll argue.
I would argue both albums capture so incredibly well. Your preference is your preference, but you get some pretty. I don't know. It maybe not the greatest. Maybe not, shouldn't be considered social commentary. Okay, maybe Lemonade, but like very strong personal commentary.
I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that Lemonade came out the same year. Lemonade came out in April. Seat at the Table came out in September. I'm glad you brought her up, because as I do, I go to Genius, I check out these lyrics, and I look for the blurbs at the bottom. And one thing I found so cool is that Beyonce interviewed Solange for a magazine, and she went into detail, like explicit detail, about this song. And I love to read what she said about this song, and a bit about how after the song came out, she went into details about how she made the song. So from Interview Magazine, Solange says, quote, "Cranes in the Sky is actually a song I wrote 8 years ago. It's the only song on the album I wrote independently of the record, and it was a really rough time. I know you remember the time. I was just coming out of my relationship with the father of my son. We were in junior high sweethearts. And so much of your identity in junior high is built on who you're with. You see the world through the lens of how you identify and have been identified at that time. So I really had to take a look at myself outside of being a mother and a wife, and internalize all these emotions that I had been feeling through that transition. I was working through a lot of challenges at every angle of my life, and a lot of self-doubt, a lot of pity partying. And I think every woman in her 20s has been there, where it feels like no matter what you are doing to fight through the thing that is holding you back, nothing can fill that void. I used to write and record a lot in Miami during that time, when there was a real estate boom in America and developers were developing all this new property. There was a new condo going up every 10 feet. I can relate to that now." She continues on to saying, "You recorded a lot there as well," her referring to as Beyonce. "And I think we experienced Miami as a place of refuge and peace. We weren't out there wilding out and partying. I remember looking up and seeing all these cranes in the sky." And I want to say for myself personally, Chris Kennard, that when I hear cranes in the sky, I'm thinking of paper cranes or like clouds. I should have noticed by the lyrics about I should have noticed like the lyric of "I don't want to feel these metal clouds," referring to like the actual cranes that like build homes and shit. Anywho, they were so heavy and such an eyesore, and not what I identified with peace and refuge. I remember thinking of it as an analogy for my transition, this idea of building up, 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 that was going on in our country at the time, all of this excessive building and not really dealing with what was in front of us. And we all know how that ended. That crashed and burned. It was a catastrophe. And that line came to me because it was so indicative of what was going on in my life as well. And 8 years later, it's really interesting that now here we are again, not seeing what's happening in our country, not wanting to put it into perspective, all of these ugly things that are staring us in the face. And isn't it so telling that here we are in 2024 on the cusp of such a very like volatile political landscape and things of that nature. I'll go into detail about that a little bit later.
Oh yeah, we're absolutely gonna have to go into our details on that later.
Hey, Primus, thank you for being here, by the way. It's so funny you mentioned like the bass on that album, because Solange made an Instagram post. It's not there anymore, and I'm so glad Genius like clipped it when they did, because she wrote Raphael handed me a CD with a few instrumentals. One was just strings, drum, and bass. I went home and wrote Cranes that night in my hotel room. When I finished writing and creating a seat at the table, a little house in New Iberia, Louisiana, I revisited Cranes once again. I called Raphael that night and asked if he would help me to elevate the production on a few of the other songs of the album to see their fullest potential. That is fucking fire. That's all I wanted to fucking say about that. Is there anything you want to say before we move on?
I think in the end, look, I'm thankful that what ends up being what can arguably be called the big signature song for an artist of such a talent as Solange, an artist who, you know, like, once again, to keep it into perspective, I was repping Solange since like middle school, yo, like middle
You're a
school going to
lifer.
high school. Like that was, yo, when she dropped that Soul Angels album, like, yo, I was like, you know, and granted, and you know, and to Miss Solange, I just want you to know I was never one of those cats who would do this. I would never besmirch the name of family to compliment you. So it was never like that. I always had love for B, but
As we do.
I always had love for B, but you know, back in them high school days, I was definitely repping you way more than I was repping B. Like, you know, like B was cool, but I was like, nah, man, but like Solange,
But also,
yeah, you know. But so I will always be thankful that a song that speaks to so much of Solange's talent, and yeah, like really, you know, thank you for bringing up that interview she did with Beyonce, because it absolutely like ties in everything I was trying to say. We were trying to say perfectly. Thank you so much for that, and I think I would also say that Solange's artistry, obviously, like seriously, go back to her multiple albums. Go back to Soul Angel. Go back to Soul Angels. Or
Part 1.
Heck, yeah. Or heck, if you want to, if you're in the mood for some not that great, but not bad early 2000s pop, you know, her debut album's kind of okay. She had like no creative control over that, and that is like the only
You mean
album.
Solo Star?
Yeah.
I have never heard that one. I'm not gonna front.
Yeah, and it's not a bad album, but it is the only album that I would ever describe as, and the fact that I don't use this should pretty much say how I feel about, comparisons. But it's the only album I would say, oh yeah, Beyonce's sister made that album. That's the only album she's ever made that I can describe it in that way.
In the words of Soul Angel, fuck the industry, let's keep it moving. We got 3 more songs on the docket. Our next selection that you picked out for us from Mide Jordan's self-titled release, it is track 12, the closing track, Every Step, Every Way. Man, talking about the OVO sound in 2024. Again, there's a very volatile time in the culture. Hey, Mr. Aubrey Graham, pack up those parachute pants and never be seen again. That's all I have to say to you, my friend. I said it in like a previous stream with good old Los. That boy Lamar, he really is like the Baba Yaga. Terrifying stuff. Not here nor there, but it's just like I just want to like acknowledge like the Compton-sized elephant in the room. It's just like, it makes it like, remember, like, not to like, this is weird, but follow me on this. Remember when Matt Healy from the 1975 started just like doing all like this out of character behavior on stage? Which prompted one like Rina Sawayama to be like, bro, this guy owns my masters. I've had enough. Mide Jordan, blink twice if you need us to just like send some lawyers to the OVO headquarters to just like get like to scrub this man from like your legacy as artist. I wonder to myself, what would happen to these two had they not gotten like the feature credit on Hold On, We're Going Home, which I'll admit I enjoy to a degree, but now I'm just like, again, no, everything we've heard alleged about this man, like, you're a good girl, you know it.
Oh man, I
I
hate
don't know what all that
it.
shit
I hate
is.
it. I hated
No,
that line,
sir.
Dan. Man, I hate it. I hated that line, Dan. Like
It's just like it's like
it
on one
twice.
hand it's like
It
it's getting pretentious on one hand, but now it's just like there's just like this gross undertone that like we really don't want to like have to think about for too long. So
yeah.
tell me about like this particular song, because
Okay.
you maybe recall, I don't think maybe we weren't acquainted at the time, deja vu, but like I worked at a CD store, and
Mhm.
I don't remember if there was a push for this album when it came out. I wasn't sure if I left the company at the time. There's a chance that I did, because I think I worked for the job I work for now around the time who won the election way back when. So like, how
Mhm.
did you stumble? Like, did you know who Mickey Jordan was prior to Hold On, We're Going Home?
I will admit I wasn't that familiar with them. Okay, and this is going back to the first Superb 16. Before I was lost in the word, before I was lost in the woods, and and I one thing I mentioned was that like the usual avenues that I would kind of have to find out like the interest in music, like this was around that last squeak of time that like MTV was not only playing music videos, but was actually like seriously trying to push certain interests in stuff. You just had to find it at a certain hour. And this is, I would say, the last like like the last truly personally relevant thing I have ever gotten from the days of like watching MTVU,
Okay.
that's and I was taken aback by the song and video. And and once again, in speaking about the certified whatever you want to call him, certified whatever you want to call him, guy in the room. I remember like we didn't and this wasn't from our last show. I think this was like right after we had stopped recording, and we were like looking into the songs we were looking forward to talking about next. And I mentioned this one, and I'm like, and I think the one thing I said is like, this is the only time on this show we will ever not only talk but say anything complimentary about Drake, right? Like, because we're never gonna talk about a Drake song here. We're just not. And it's because we're not, there's no real reason to mention him other than in reference to his popularity. So we are never going to. This is the only time. This next show is the only time we will ever talk about Drake. We got that, and it's like, and that was before everything that ended up happening. That was before, geez, a
Before like the
reckoning.
superpowers broke up, essentially.
Yeah. But before, big, the big three talk was permanently dissolved. I was just expecting us to be like, oh wow, oh yeah, these guys who are part of the OVO camp, and it's like I know that it's weird because it's like in the States, they're seen as the and I'm sure you guys are familiar with the jokes, the OVO sweatshop and stuff like that. You know,
Like just even that meme has just like soured so badly over the last decade. Good
yeah,
heavens! And I want to say, like, so while you were chatting, I went through like
yeah.
their discog, and I'm like, what have these cats been up to? And they've been dropping like every like they have like two albums that came out recently, like in 2021 and in
Mhm.
2023. So it is quite clear that like their relationship to like the OVO brand has been beneficial. They still have 8 million like monthly listeners, and they're putting up numbers in regards to like their albums. But like I guess it's a matter of like, okay, like there was no push stateside to hear these two do their stuff, so they just stayed in their lane. And it seems to me it's like, you're probably were in like the stew late night when man was like, come on, I need some bars. What y'all got? So like, like
And
y'all are lucky that you're still here now and like being discussed right here by us two. If I'm being frank, based on just like the output that I've seen from these two. You know what I'm saying? Because like,
yeah, and
I want to like, I feel bad when like you're like under the umbrella of a more popular person, and it's like no one's really checking for you. But clearly, it appears to me, in an ignorant sense, that I can assume that like you're more than happy to not really say shit and collect that check. So
yeah, and the fascinating and the fascinating thing, as you mentioned, is they are pretty big over India, native Canada.
I reckon
In like
in the
I'm sure
six.
they're regular fixtures on the Much Music, on the Much Music channels, which are
I like
basically
much music.
Canadian MTV. So it's like it's not that they don't have a following, and this was me being really naive in 2016. I was like, yo, this group, this like really interesting R&B, dope, kind of
PBR&B.
bedroom pop, more bedroom pop. Yo, and like they down with Drake. They down with, and like they're releasing interesting music. They're down with Drake. It's 2016. Hotline Bling is like still all the rage. So surely as like Drake's clout is getting big, he's gonna be like, hey yo, check out my guys, Majid. Like, yo, these are my guys. And if I was to credit him for anything, it's not like he doesn't do tracks with the guys. I mean, I think even
Yeah,
on
that's
their
why I was
last,
like,
he has features. So, he very much does try to scratch the back, but it's like, but it's like, man, it's like, I don't, but it's like, oh, okay, maybe they're fine just being cool in Canada, and their American attention just kind of being what it is. I'm sure they've made a wonderful lives for themselves, but just listen to a song like this song, F Every Way, where it's like, wow, this is like really just such, like, this is the kind of song that is so well written. I mean, it is basically this kind of from the point of view of a guy who's like really trying to get with this lady, and like, hey, look, I know a bunch of guys come up to you and say all those things, but I really mean it. And the thing is, with Miji's vocal delivery, it's like you believe it. His voice is it's like his voice comes close to cracking when he's like, well, I'm not like those others, and it's like you believe that kind of vote. It's weird because it's like there is a way I could have seen this being like a very, very early Drake B-side or something like that. And I guess maybe this is kind of, part of the curse of Drake is that, like, he we all know how many vulnerable Please Love Me songs Drake makes, but as someone who knows way too much about being in that camp, I just never could buy it. Because it was just like, dog, really? Like, really?
come on, man.
Really, man? This is how you're dealing with your issues. You're the one having the issues. Like,
Is this your king? Type shit.
Like, I kid you not. Even back in like 2012, when the Take Care music video was out with Rihanna, I just was rolling my eyes at every single moment. Like this is how deep I've been in not like really messing with Drake like that. Like, I just remember like, oh wow, you're so sensitive. Oh wow, true love eludes you. Oh, oh, you're just selling it to me, Degrassi man.
All right.
But I say that to say that that same kind of vulnerability that he had, that same kind of vulnerability that I at times had a very difficult time believing from their boss, even though, let it be known, I'm sure their boss has had many vulnerable moments and has been heartbroken, and it is not right for me to discount those experiences. But whatever. That was just my opinion as a music listener. But you believe that vulnerability here, and it is done so well. And a song written so well in very much, I would say, a bedroom pop quality, which is, and I say that because the intimacy that the song is like outright referring to, drawing lines with my fingertips and stuff like that, an intimate, a want for intimacy that you always believe, coming out of his voice. And once again, me being me in 2016, I was like, yo, people are going to love this. This is where this is gonna be. This is good. Song of the summer, people. Song of the summer. And then, and in a situation that I have spoken about multiple times, I would go to the Fantano review. He absolutely hated this album. It was like, oh wow, it's like, oh wow, Drake's OVO guys with soulless R&B. I was like, and this was his least favorite song on the album, by the way. This and I was like, no, guys, there's something here, and really, and I got into Majid's work, man. I did, Forever is a very beautiful song. It's a very beautiful song. It's once again, is in that alternative R&B bedroom pop lane, and utilizes it so well. They had so much strength in that bedroom pop lane that I don't know if they ever really understood that, because we're in the OVO camp and stuff like that. And I think the last album they did was them really trying to get upbeat with that one. But they really did have some solid songs. I think on the next album they did had a wonderful song called "Gave Your Love Away," which I was like, wow. Songs that really showcase the talent these guys had, the talent that definitely helped when they ended up, writing and contributing to Hold On. But a talent that, I don't know. I mean, if this song reaches anyone, to maybe, well, okay, I get it. Maybe you don't want to support OVO right now, but I assure you, there were stuff from that camp not made by the certified guy that does stand very well. And I'm glad to say that this song, all these 8 years later, still stands as a pretty quality output from that OVO camp, and something I wish defined the OVO camp more than it ended up really doing.
Fantano wrote on February 10th with the review, which is, mind you, less than 5 minutes. Quote, Majid Jordan's self-titled debut is a pretty disappointing exercise in regurgitation. Every cliche all R&B has to offer. 4 out of 10, unquote. Ethered. I won't waste any more time on this. You can see for yourself, like Aylor says, we have to go from Toronto to I guess pay homage at the altar of one of the most almighty trios of the culture today, De La Soul, with their selection from And the Anonymous Nobody, which, by the way, there are so many big dogs on this album. Daisy Goldblatt, Damon Albarn, 2 Chainz, Usher, David Byrne, Justin Hawkins, Pete Rock, Estelle, Rock Marciano, Snoop, Jill Scott, and most importantly, at least for today, Little Dragon. It's track 12 with Drawn. And right off the bat, like I mentioned in the first part of the broadcast, first quarter anyway, I when I went through everything the second time around, I was on my way home from work and just like looking out the window late at night, listening to this song, big cans on. So all I hear is the music and just, I'll say something else. On the way, I was on my way to an outing today, and I put on my Forever 50 playlist because one of my acquaintances was like, "Yo, do you think you could build a playlist about your most favorite songs of all time, like your favorite 50 songs?" And I'm like, "There's no way I could do that." But then I thought about it, and then I'm like, I should totally try. And one of my very good friends, shout out to Precious, played this song by Sugar Ross for me. And like, I'm like, those who are like really musical nerds, they know Sugar Ross in general for that one Blue album they have, the one that came out in 1999. Like that's like really like their claim to fame. But in 2005 they put out DROC, which I think is like Icelandic for thank you. And track 5, which is like a 7-minute song that's like sort of like a depressing ode to like being a fisherman. Like it really just took me to a very emotional place. And I'm like, wow, I never heard something so beautiful before. And I'm like, yo, if I heard that shit in fucking middle school, because that's when I was in middle school, like 8th grade, 2005, man, who knows how that may have like affected my trajectory as a creative. And so when I put on Drawn, I feel the same way that song says. I'm not gonna try and pronounce it because my Icelandic and like my Norwegian is garbage, so I'm not gonna attempt that. But just Drawn, it like is everyone here, like I would think, knows like just like the power and the talent of one Yukimi Nagano, and like why everyone wanted like a feature from her, from like Gorillaz to like Subtract and other various artists, and just like a big shout out to the producer, the Anonymous Nobodies, who like put this tapestry together. Like I'm always just like tickled by how people just like weave just like string instruments together and just like non like classical like venues and things of that nature. And we don't really get a verse from the gang until like the very back half of the song. And I just like the way that it ends when he's like, I don't mean to and it's who did the verse? Do you remember who did the verse?
Yeah, pause.
Yeah, Paz
plug
is
one.
like, he's like, I didn't mean to be a whore, but my hormones had me screaming like a fiend, screaming, "What you got for me?" 2 words, I'm mortal. But the fans slid them both together and moved the apostrophe. Hip hop lords, maybe, but my ways need laundering. Time's a ticking, stop squandering. And I'm like, yeah, drop a bomb for Flex, drop a bomb. So. I think around the rollout for this album was the time where De La Soul's like, "Ayo, the entire discography can be like illegally downloaded via us. Go get that shit." And I remember saying it to a friend, but not actually doing it myself, because when I found out, I was on the family computer and I'm like, I don't even think I can put all this shit on my laptop. But I was happy to just pass that around for the people, for the digital crate diggers who can't afford to just like get the cassettes, get the vinyl and things of that nature. And as I feel like all fans of the group should like mention, it's really fucked up how like the industry allowed for just like that label to just kind of like hold De La hostage until the untimely passing of Trugoy. We're like, oh, like now you can like, because like, to be honest with you, the only song by De La that I stream on the regular is like their collaboration with like MF Doom, and he also rest in peace. So being as though you're one of the few who followed the release of this album, what can you tell us about the Anonymous Nobody in general, and what this song in particular like this like says to you? being like, because like when I hear this song, I'm like, yo, Aelor's film brain is in Super Saiyan mode when this song comes on. I just know it. So like, break down like the selection process for us if you don't mind.
So yeah, obviously being a long term fan of De La Soul, and and like around the time that they released the Anonymous Nobody, they had not released an album in literally 12 years. Yeah, their last album was 2004's The Grind Date. So
yeah.
So I believe, as Mike the Sneer would kind of refer in his video on De La Soul, like so much of hip hop had changed by that time. Like hip hop was already in a much different place in 2004 compared to, like, I would say 96 when they dropped Stakes is High, which I still consider one of, if not outright, their best work. But to go to an album like the Grind Date, which came out when like us back, the backpack indie underground rap then was able to had an easier time being able to find an audience, within the mainstream world of like TV, mainstream world of media appearances and stuff like that, an Adult Swim or a late night guest appearance or something like that. But by the 2010s, because of how everything had been, even though we were all online so much, even by 2016, what we considered online culture had been commodified so much. So of course, of course, I was not surprised that they had to crowdfund this album. They ended up, and for I believe like $110,000 was ended up being the budget on this. Album, and I don't know. It's like and in a way, this would kind of be a bit of, and of course, in a way, this would end up kind of being a bit of an end of an era, because this being the last album released while True Goy was still with us, aka Plug 2, and there was this kind of feeling of like, oh wow, here they are back with their first album in like 12 years, so they're really gonna give us something. And of course, and yeah, part of that was they got a lot of features. They got a lot of features on that album. De La Soul was never strangers to out there features here and there. But I never thought that I would end up in a situation where they have an album with both David Byrne and 2 Chainz. And that 2 Chainz song is pretty neat. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was always Drawn. That was a really just solid showcase, and just the fact that they allowed this to be, they really out like Little Dragon are not a feature. They are very much like granted, it's really more Yuki, but it's credited.
Nah, we're gonna credit the whole squad, bro. Like, I want to like tell a quick story about like Little Dragon, in the sense that like I think I had to know this band because of Constant Surprises.
Yeah, it's a classic,
like, bro. That is like, I don't care. Nobody says that's one of the best fucking R&B songs I've ever fucking heard in my life. And the
absolute standout of the 2000s.
Little Dragon's a big deal now, but they should be a bigger deal in our community specifically, as far as I'm concerned. And like, so I followed this band, and on their second album, which I think is one of my most favorite albums of all time. Well, listen, like, I can't wait to like see like the result of your work, of your own like top 100 albums list. Neither here nor there, but like, there's a certain song on that album that I don't think sounds very good, but they did it live in a different key, and it elevates the entire production, and it has some keyboard solos. And I was like attending this one creator's Twitch stream, and like they're playing songs, and I'm like, yo, throw this particular cover of this particular live performance of Little Dragon on, and we couldn't find it. And I was heartbroken that someone out there has that like broadcast and it's no longer publicly available. I could have sworn it was KEXP, but like it may not be. It was some studio situation. And the song is Swimming. Like, something about the way Swimming sounds on the album doesn't sound quite as good as it did in that live performance, and it's nowhere to be freaking found. So if anyone by any chance has it and like wants to put that back into like the lexicon, please do so. You have my eternal gratitude. But yeah, shout out to the whole band, the drums, the keyboard players. Go watch like their Moog session of them playing Little Man. Like, I love this band. They're tapped the fuck in. Carry on.
But yeah, and I think it's great that Little Dragon get so much of the show, because like their part does end up bringing a whole lot of context into Paz's verse, because you listen to lyrics, which is so much about regrets. It's so much about what we don't say when we need to, and how much that ends up having like regret for us in later life. And for Paz to kind of put himself out there on his verse, where he's like, yo, I'm like doing tours all the time, which, by the way, De La Soul has spoken multiple times about how their label situation and them going years not having their masters was like the reason that they were always on tour like that. And it's like, yo, I'm on tour all the time. I'm away from my family, and I'm around people who obviously, because they love my work, they love that I'm an artist, they are like, they treat me really nice. They treat me really nice. And I made bad decisions because, I'm so used to having to live in this world of being this artist who is so admired, that it's like I keep forgetting that is cool, but it's not as important as the people around me. And I am so close to losing that. And, and I think it's a moment like that is why I have always considered this a major standout on the album. An album which, had a Tribe Called Quest not released, we got it from here, I would have called this I would have said, oh, hey, best hip hop album of 2016, but sorry, De La, Tribe got you on that one. I'm sorry. I mean, but it's all good. It's all good. But and I think it was great that. And this in 2016, so it was roughly like 28, like around 28 years since like 3 feet high and rising, and just seeing them still kind of trying to evolve their sound on some kind of level, even if like certain I like, I'm not gonna act as if I loved every song. Like I think CBGB's was probably a way more interesting idea than like an actual
the result.
Yeah, but you know what? But at a time when we always end up in the state of hip hop in this day. Conversations that I kind of end up being a part of, and yet even at times I'm like, we don't have to have these conversations all that time. But it's like, I mean, but yeah, this was 2016 when, when once again I'm really paying attention to that like Lil Yachty stuff that's happening, and I'm just like, yo,
don't even get me started about Yachty right now, because
and I'm just like, I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. This is what
we don't have to go down this path. Like, even listening to our first broadcast about like Yachty, like I've given that guy a lot of grace over the years, and I regret every last inch of it because the clip that I just saw of him and James Blake talking about the saxophone pissed me the fuck off. We're not going to go down that path.
I didn't even bother unmuting that video. I was like, nothing good's gonna come out of me actually listening to
I'm
this.
salty. I'm pissed.
I just got it. And I would feel that way even if I didn't play saxophone. Even if I didn't play saxophone, it from 5th grade to 10th grade, I would feel that way even if that random part of my life never happened. But so
Yanni blows my mind like a cello. What? Okay, let's move on.
But yeah, I was thankful that in 2016, like when I'm once again still kind of being a part of like, where is hip hop going right now conversation. That's like, okay, look, like there is still something that you can resonate with that okay has its moments of vibes, but it doesn't exist on vibes in of itself. There is really something you can be drawn to. And all the more reason I consider this not only a standout album, a standout of 2016, so much of a standout they would even get not this group and album would even be nominated for best rap album, but only to lose to actually the next artist on our list.
Oh yeah, wait, look at that transition, huh? Okay, so I think it's funny we're talking about Chance right now, considering that like this summer might be like his comeback year. But to be honest with you, like I had a really great run with Chance, but like I'm not so interested right now, to be honest with you. I think I'm waiting to see where like the chips fall where they do in regards to just like will like the community at large like accept him with like open arms, considering like it's unlike it's in just like, because like, he's gone from like to being the living meme of I love my wife to now like, oh, like we're getting a divorce. And that has nothing to do with that's neither here nor there. But it's just like considering just like the hills that Chance chose to die on, have made me feel some type of way about like his creative process. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like like even if like the big day didn't suck, like the fact of the matter is for somehow like it's like the manager's fault. And again, like their relationship is not my business. We only know what they've allowed us to hear so far. And like I don't have any doubt in Dude's pen, but like, is it something that I need to hear? That is yet to be revealed. And so we'll see how that plays out when like the chips fall where they may. That said, going back in time and hearing this song again for the first time in a while, this is a really good sad song. Like it falls into that category of like this is a song that gives you a hug when you really need it, because like I feel like so few records really truly like fit that mold of it's okay to like let go of things that no longer serve you in whatever way you might describe. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yeah. I know Coloring Book is a bit of a controversial release, considering just like, in the wake of like how Ye kind of like lost the plot in the way that like how I still don't know how I feel about Jay Electronica even to this day and things of that nature. If like the way that I feel about like Chance even winning the fucking Grammy, you know what I'm saying? Like a nomination, absolutely, no question, should have been like the case. But the winner, that's where like I feel like I struggle. When I consider all that like went down in the culture in hip hop that year, not even considering Quest nor De La and things of that nature. But like, I'm glad that like this song still makes its little ripples. I think of like that one artist, Kevin Garrett, who covers it, who more or less Cadillac Card that song, but still sits in the same, like, it's still like, it feels like a nice nod, like, what would you say that like, and like in the wake of this, like, and it's funny we mentioned Yachty because Yachty has a feature on this album that honestly I could do without. If I'm being honest, like he definitely like carried the song, but like mixtape is definitely a dud on that on the set list. If I'm keeping it a bean, like so for you, Lord, like what is like Same Drugs like? How is that like served you in the years since it's come out?
Oh man, there is honestly so much to say about so much to say about Same Drugs, and just that atmosphere of where when it was released, not just about, like, not just where Chance was at that time. And the weird thing about Chance is, like, and yeah, us talking about our relationship with him now, and what you guys said, I mean, when I was in the woods, I caught wind of, Chance drop it, well, Chance war and his personal situation, which, neither here and there. That's just how these things are. Like, a few jokes might be made in a few minutes, but it's all in good nature. It's all in good nature. I completely understand. These things happen, and I hope that. And even though this is exactly what you said would not happen, you hoped would not happen on finish line. Like, I love my
Oh damn! I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It's not that's a these things just happen, Chance. These things just happen. Look, and once again, like, a joke about it might come here and there, but really, it's all nothing but love and support for you, and hopefully making sure that your daughter continues to be raised in the greatest of personal conditions. But man, Chance in 2016, and just how, like, it's weird because, listening to the trajectory of what Chance had dropped at that time, 10 days, acid rap, and then we get the coloring book, and it's like the come up happens so viciously, and where even at a point where, I'm gonna snitch on myself. I'm gonna snitch
Oh
on
my!
myself, man. It's like, I was like, I was originally rooting for Vic Mensa more than I was you. Like, I always thought you were cool,
I
Chance,
know what you
but I
mean. I
but
know
I
what you
was
mean.
but, me and Vic just had that
Oof.
history. So I
Internet.
was like, yeah. So I was like, yeah. This Chance the rapper guy. Yeah, hey, he's cool. He's cool. But Vic Mensa, that's who you got to check out for.
Oof.
And wow, see, and wow, see, guys, I get it wrong all the time, guys. I get it. I can admit
You
when
aren't
I got it
alone
wrong.
there, friend. You aren't
Yeah,
alone
so,
there.
but Chance's star kept on rising, and even if I wasn't, like, hitting on everything, I could, you couldn't help but respect it. I mean, was I ever interested in listening to that collab he did with Justin Bieber? Nah. But the fact
Juke
that
Boy's not
he,
that bad. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie. But like
like,
Confident has not aged well.
yeah. Like, I even did. I was like, oh man, this is trying too hard,
And
Mr.
Holy sucks
Bieber.
too. Just want to make sure I include that.
Yeah. But it was like, so I was not rocking with that song, but I was rocking with the fact that Bieber reached out to Chance, and so I was like, I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I might not be rocking with everything, but there is definitely something of beautiful quality here, and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with
We're
where it
open to the
goes.
idea, the possibility.
Yeah, Life of Pablo comes out, an album which I can very much swear on multiple Bibles that when Life of Pablo came out, I was telling people, I was very open with people about my conflicted to the point of negative opinions on that album. And that was not really the most popular thing you could say in 2016. And I said
I
it,
respect you
and I
for it.
You know, yeah, and I'm like, thank goodness. I take the clouds every day, man. Oh god, thank goodness, you know. And like, I was very open about rocking with Ye in 2016. I was very open about it. I was
Yeah,
like,
I was definitely still
yo,
like, I think, man, because like, you know what's so fucking funny? It's
yeah,
like, I think about that period of time, 2016,
yeah,
and like, I can't like, and I was like, and like, much like yourself, I was a Ye apologist for like the next 3 years,
mhm.
and like, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder like, what, you know what? And I think like, and if I'm being honest with myself, it's because someone like came to me specifically and was like, your boy put on that hat, my boy. And I'm just like, I'm embarrassed. And it's because I'm embarrassed and because my more comes to the time. I'm like, no. We're not doing this shit. We're not playing around with this shit. There are lives at stake, bro. And like,
Yeah,
and I think, and like, cause you know, like, we were like clowning Ye because like, oh haha, he keeps on releasing the album. What's up with this dude? But like, that was the year that like DT took the job. And like, I don't really remember like the through line at the time, like, yo, what was Ye saying then that didn't like put the alarm bells in my head at the time? Because like, this is the same album with both Rihanna and Chris Brown on the album. And folks know about how much I'm staunchly against CB and how irritated he makes me. And I'm just like, that wasn't enough for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, it should have been enough for me like way back in '08 when like Graduation came out on Tell Me Nothing, Can't Tell Me Nothing. But like, you know, like I was in high school at the time and I wasn't as like
yeah,
I wasn't as woke as I am now and shit like that. But yo, it's like after like during that period, like yeah, Chance really was like dying on the cross for Ye at almost every
yeah,
circumstance. You know, like he's like, oh, like I made all we got, I ain't never going to hell and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
fam, like
And
ever
okay,
fucking green, dude.
yeah, and I'm talking about Life of Pablo and really highlighted. I'm sorry guys. Life of Pablo is trash. Don't comment. Don't
It
comment.
has not aged well at all.
I don't care. Like, I don't care. And this was an album. This was an opinion I was feeling even then. I was like,
Be the
these
Kool-Aid
beats are
back then. I'm not
cool.
gonna front.
Yeah, these beats are cool, but like, are you listening to these lyrics, man? What are
Oh.
we
And
on,
again,
man?
like the memes were memeing, the memes were
Yeah,
memeing, but
I
like
mean,
it really was just like that period when like the wheels really fell off the car, and like more than ever, like especially in 2020 fucking four, more than ever do we need just like a group of people who are in the room to say this shit is not going to work. Take it
yeah,
back to the drawing board, try again, because it's not it. You know,
yeah,
like the and as much as like as much as I like I emotion like emotional as much as I think about my emotional connection to Ye, it's like not no one in the game should be able to say the album is out, but I'm still gonna change some shit about it like while I can. It's like once I feel like once like the record is out, unless like you're gonna pull it away from the public, like let that chopper sing. It's like fam, like you put it out. Like the time for like snipping things and changing things is over. Like Thug did that once on So Much Fun, and like the result of his like meddling gave us another MGK verse. We didn't need that shit. Come
and
on, fam. And so,
and
because
yeah,
like, I'll bring it back to Chance. Chance
yeah,
puts out the big day. His people are like, do not put this album out. He puts it out, and like, it tanks his shit. And he could have been like, get this shit the fuck out of here. But he let it sit. I do not like, and again, very ignorant, very naive. I feel as though if Chance was really like, I made a big mistake, this fucker is gone. Like, it could have been that way, but like he let it sit and like post that release, and like he's working his way back into like the good graces of hip hop. And it will most certainly probably like it will probably work out when like the time comes from like the for like a new release to like make itself known. But gosh darn, like I remember where I was like years ago hearing like acid rap in like my local library on DatPiff for the first time. And I'm like, there is really nobody doing this shit. But since I brought it up, Chance, you have got to answer for using like the F slur on 2 specific songs on that damn release. Because far be it for me to like select that mixtape on Spotify now and still hear that John unedited. What was the point of that? Very confusing, very alarming behavior, dog. That's all I gotta say about that. Yo, A1, bring us home, bro.
And here's okay, and the thing once again, because there's so much to talk about, and in bringing up Life of Pablo and just how it's Life of Pablo and Chance's verse on Ultralight Beam, which he by the way ends up performing with Ye on SNL in 2016. You know. Like I'll keep in mind, yo, that performance, like I haven't watched it since 2016 for an obvious reason, but it's like I remember like, look, I will not say, look, I'm not gonna say a positive thing about like the lyrics on Life of Pablo. A lot of it is just so obvious how completely out of his mind Kanye is going. And I am thankful that this is something that even I was kind of clocking in, and that was even before. And I was clocking. Our good mutual friend of mine can probably. I don't know if she can quote me on that, quote me on this, but this is something I remember. You know, we all know how we are both kind of on the same feeling on Miss Swift, and
who ever heard of her?
I was calling out how trash that famous verse was in 2016.
Shit was fucking weird.
Yo, I was calling out how weird it was. He had her name. He had her name in his mouth, and that was even before the video. Which once again.
Right.
I'm like, I never rocked with any of that stuff. And it's like, it's weird, and it's weird because I still was cool with him, but like I had just like been like, yo, you know, you're my man, but this album kind of sucks, with the exception of a few tracks, one of them being the one with Chance. And you know, when Chance says that, then, you know, I'm down with Kanye, I'm never gonna fail. I'm like, okay, the ball is on your court. Ball's on your court. You're never gonna fail. What is it? Okay, what is your big statement now that you're never gonna fail? And then he drops Coloring Book, and I'm like, all right, okay, I get it. Okay, all right. You know, he sure shut me up. He sure shut me up because I couldn't deny what, you know, what Coloring Book was on. I couldn't deny that, like, this album is hidden where it's hidden. You know, I didn't say a positive thing about Ye's album. I cannot say the same thing about his contributions to the album. You know, and
sure.
And it all kind of, and to kind of bring it back to, you know, to same drugs. I think one of the best performances of that song, and probably one of the best performances in the history of this program, was when Chance the Rapper was a musical guest for the second time on SNL in 2016, and he performed Finish Line, which would also include something that's not on the album, and the reason why I consider the SNL performance far superior, the network television debut of a Miss No Name. And you know, and it was such so much of this conversation would be way better if we were talking about it in 2016. But I'm trying to.
Here we are now. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, No Name is still here now. Put out like arguably the best album of her career, and is like doing putting in the work that I wish more rappers would do in regards to just like lifting our people up. And I want to like acknowledge what she said in her interview with like Eric the Young God, where she's like, I'm just a regular person. You know what I'm saying? Like, And like, because again, like I mentioned how like I have a very cautious relationship with Jay Electronica, especially given these times. Like, have not heard a word from this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Not a single syllable. And frankly, I'd be frightened to even ask like his 5 cents on anything happening right now to the world at large. But she was just like, "Hey, yo, that's one of my favorite rappers. I wanted to get him on the album." And like the way that like she's just like put on for her city, put on for Saba, put on for Smino. It's like, man, like it's so funny. Like the next episode of like Haystack Hates Your Music is about like women who rap, and she's not in the lineup. But I am gonna like point her out specifically because just like,
oh yeah, and shout out to Haystack. Really, you know, the episodes you've done with him are really been really cool, and I all up to Haystack for helping, you know, keep the channel alive, you know, even while I was kind of out and around.
You will be like, if I have my way, Lore, you're going to be like the closer for our second season when we get to episode 20. But more on that when we get there later on this year. I know you're on a bit of a tear, but like we're coming up on an hour and a half, and like I haven't had dinner. So like, this has been another episode of we don't really have a name of the show, honestly. But like, yeah, this is Superb 16. This is a Superb 16. We're 2 quarters in, and I would like to propose something to you live on the show that, like, you know, like there are 4 quarters, like it's a basketball game or, you know, like a football game. So we should do a halftime show, I would think, the next time you and I get together online. Like we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Apple put out their top 100 albums of all time. The shit is mid. So like I think, and like just like, you know, as a chance to like talk some shit, you know, like have a casual chat together, we can get online, examine the list, and talk about our own lists. I don't know if you're done with your list yet, but like if it's done by the time we get a chance to like get on the horn, we can discuss it with like our adoring public and just like mention like specific records that may have been neglected by the good old people over at Apple, because I have thoughts and opinions on it. I'm sure you might as well. But again, like we're gonna bounce. This has been great. Calls to action. Love this part of the show. If you're listening to this in any way, shape, or form, like currently now or in the future, make sure that you're staying hydrated. Look, I got props. I'm like a beverage hobgoblin. I got the pink juice. I got the water. What else do I have over here in my props? Oh, I have a KN95. Listen, it's a pandemic. Wear a mask. Protect yourself. Protect your neighbors. Protect your family. Protect your coworkers. Protect the general public, the elderly, the children. It's not hard to do, and most of them will probably work. You know, stay safe, stay healthy. We'd love to have you here. Next time we like shoot an episode of the program. Thirdly, and most importantly, well, there's still one more after it, but you know, you're gonna like get up from here, you're gonna like go to the bathroom, you know, floss, brush your teeth, wash your hands, you know, put on some eyelashes, whatever you want to do, and you're gonna look yourself dead in the eye and say, "I love you" to yourself. If you can't do that, trust me, I understand, but please know that myself, Chris Kennard, and Aelor, my good friend, we love you in the most like platonic and supportive way possible. Happy Pride Month to all of my fellow queers. The you know, like the, you know who you are. Pick out a flag, post it in the comments. There's mutual aid in the comments as well. Like, please share it if you can't contribute yourself directly. Speaking of money, I use this money to buy this card for my friend Aelor. Aelor, let me tell you something. Like, since you graduated, you've been looking for a new gig. And I said to you, I'm like, can I pay you to appear on the show? And you consented. And so you like sent me your PayPal. And like, for some reason, PayPal was not fucking with your boy. And so I'm like, fuck it. I'll do it the old school way. That thank you note is coming in the mail tomorrow with some dollars. So like, if you want to like contribute to the show, like if you ask me for it, I'll send you like hashtag. And like, I'll send some dough to my dog, because like it's been a while since we've been in the same room, and like we got to find a way financially to make that work, because like we're taking over the world, if like what's left of it for any matter. We got movies to make, we got opinions to share. So I want to make sure I said that out loud. Like you can expect that when I get a chance to like leave my home tomorrow. And finally, like we've like been alluding to throughout the entire broadcast, like there are like at least, I don't know, maybe like 14 to 16 like humanitarian crises happening all at the same goddamn time. It's hellish out there. So please know that everyone here at this show, we stand with the peoples of Yemen, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Niger, Somalia, Mali, Myanmar, Burkina Faso, Darfur, South Sudan, Ghana, Hawaii, and Palestine. Power to the people, death to imperialism. Any last thoughts, Mr. Aylor, before I go?
It has been absolutely wonderful, coming back here after all this time, and really, very much, and much like the feeling I would get on many of our best shows, with that feeling of, dang, we got to do this, dang, looking forward to us doing this again. And you know what, I'm sorry guys, I left for way too long.
Don't apologize. Life was lifing, dude.
But man, it's thankful to be back. It's thankful to be talking with this man right here. And always a great time. And hey guys, well, first of all, happy Pride. Shout to all the good people. Shout out to all the good people in that community. And extra shout out to the people within our community, outside of this man himself, who have also been very vocal about, speaking about the human rights atrocities that have been going on. And there's so much that it really kind of takes from you to kind of see the atrocities that are allowed to happen, some with government support. And I understand that there are never any easy answers, which makes me all the more thankful for the many people in my life that I have been who have always been vocal about where they stand on things and want to, and are adamant about, in whatever atmosphere they're in, whether it's this web show, whether you can actually make a documentary, whatever you can do, whatever you can do to get the message out about how the effects of what society does to its people. And there was a really good guy I knew who was very adamant about making sure that I remained consistent in being aware of things in this world. And that's a person who I will always be thankful. And it is much like how this man here has really helped, really elevate certain viewpoints I've had about this world. That guy also did a wonderful job, and maybe I'll speak about him some other time. But I was very thankful. I was very, very thankful to know him, and I wish he knew how much I admired him, but I wish I got the chance to say even more about how much of a great guy he was. But I don't know. But hey, maybe I'll be able to tell you guys some really funny stories some other time. But thank you to everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to that guy. And we'll be back. We're going back. This is absolutely not farewell, man. We're going to be back.
I forgot to mention that Aylor put out his first video essay. That's in the description. Please give it a shot. It's about Marty. It's really well done, if I do say so myself, with no bias whatsoever. I'm sorry for your loss. I love you so much. And we'll hopefully be back in early July. Worst case scenario. Socials in the description. Pride is a protest. We'll be back next time. Say goodbye, Aylor.
See you soon. See y'all.